My leadership challenge is the fact that I have over 1,500 employees around the world. Probably 2/3 of them I'll probably never meet in their entire careers with me. I was kind of always used to being the smartest in the room. Like, I'm now the dumbest in the room. We just have some amazing people that have challenged me to be better.
Welcome to our second Entrepreneurship 101 this year. We are very excited to have our first Lived It lecture tonight with Bruce Poon Tip from G Adventures. Before I formally introduce Bruce, I just have a couple housekeeping announcements to make. We've had a lot of questions since last week. If you are watching on the webcast, you do not need the registration card. So we're able to actually even combine if you attended 10 lectures and you watched like 10 online, we can track that. So just for live lectures, do you need a stamp? And webcast, when you register, you only register once, but it will actually track you and we'll know which lectures you watch. So hopefully that system works for people and allows you to be flexible and attend some live and watch some on the webcast. The other announcement I have to make is next week's lecture is Entrepreneurial Ecosystem and Legal Fundamentals. This is a new lecture this year given by Arsha Tabritsi, who's a well-known IP lawyer that worked in Silicon Valley, and he'll be talking about legal things like when to incorporate, when to bring lawyers and other service providers on your team. He's a really great presenter, so you'll enjoy that lecture. So tonight is our first Lived It lecture, and the purpose of these lectures is to bring in celebrated Canadian entrepreneurs that can inspire you on your entrepreneurial journey. Somebody that I've sort of been following for a number of years is Bruce Poon Tip, who created what was formerly known as Gap Adventures. And I've actually done 3 trips with Gap Adventures to Egypt, Costa Rica, and Greece. So I'm a fan, definitely. And we were just talking that I wanted to do the kayaking in Belize, which is one of his original trips, which was amazing to hear the story about that. Bruce has a great story. In 1990, he founded G Adventures in order to deliver authentic experiences to travelers who craved adventures beyond all-inclusive resorts. When no bank was willing to provide a loan, he used 2 credit cards to first set up his business. Since then, G Adventures has grown into be a world leader in adventure travel, with offices around the world offering small group experiences in over 100 countries worldwide to more than 1,000 travelers annually. One testament to how international it was, in the trip that I went to Costa Rica, I think we had somebody from Switzerland, 3 Norwegians, 3 Brits, 2 Americans, 3 Canadians, and a couple people from Asia, I think. So it was really great. It wasn't just 15 Canadians on a trip. This is a well-known company around the world. And one of the reasons that we really wanted to bring Bruce here today is because we have such a strong social innovation following. I just want to get a sense of who in the audience is interested in social innovation or already, so wow, okay, so at least a third, I would say. So Bruce is passionate about sustainability and philanthropy and an authority on social entrepreneurship, quintuple bottom line versus triple bottom line, corporate social and environmental responsibility, and leading with service and innovation. So it is my pleasure to welcome Bruce Poon Tip.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? Well, I am not. Just so you know, I am deathly sick. I dragged myself out of bed to be here today. So, sorry. I almost called in sick. You know, I have never called in sick in all of my years. I've never missed a day of school. I've never missed a day of work. It's kind of a record for me. So I wasn't yet about to be, this was not going to be my day. But I'm going to make it through this. So, this is a very interesting talk because they kind of asked me not to talk too much about the company and talk more about our story and to inspire people through what we do. And more about, and I want to give you some live examples, I guess, and it kind of reflects my story. So I'm not going to talk to you about travel as much as, talk to you about like our industry and give you a little bit of context of why we do what we do and where we came from and how we started in Toronto here in 1990 to being, we're now the largest adventure travel company in the world, with offices, I guess, in 20-something countries now. And Canada actually only represents about 13% of our business now. And Canada's only our 4th biggest market. So we get more, at one point we had more people from Switzerland on our trips than we did from Canada. So how does that happen, I guess, is the story. So we have to dial it back a bit to 1990. When I started the company, there was a motivation, and there was lots of challenges, obviously. just from we were in the middle of the Gulf War, and I see this as quite a young audience. There's probably people that weren't born in 1990, which is quite... On Friday, I'm speaking at Queen's, and there'll be no one in the audience born before 1990, which is quite sad, frankly. And so at the time, I decided that there was obviously... I went backpacking myself, and I don't really tell this story very often, so this is a very unusual occasion that I get to talk about why I started the company. People always want to talk about trips, right? Talk about adventures and things like that. But there was a hole in the market. I went traveling myself, and you kind of have to look at what was happening, I guess, in the market, and you have to envision the world before Google, and you have to envision the world before email, and you have to envision the world before the fax machine. Can everyone go that far back? Does anyone remember the telex? Not many people. You have to go to the Smithsonian today to see the telex. But the travel industry was very different in 1990, and and I think out of all industries that changed over the course with the internet coming on in the mid-90s, the industry that's probably changed the most is probably tourism, travel. When you see what's happened with online retailers, some of the most successful companies have been online retailers on the internet. But it really changed the industry completely. So if you can imagine back in 1990, and I have a slide, I think, just to reference this. Going back to 1990, you have to remember what was happening in the tourism industry. When people wanted to book a tour, they would go to a travel agent because they only had guidebooks, and they'd go to the library, that dreaded thing, the library. And there's so much information at your fingertips today, it's changed the patterns of what everybody does. And so, there's so much information for people. So that's been a good thing and a bad thing for me because it's made the world seem smaller for people. So more and more people go to Africa and go to Antarctica and Galapagos than ever before because the world seems so small because you have so much information in your pocket even, right? But at the same time, it's also made competition fierce because there's all these tiny little operators that have websites in all these countries, and you can go to Egypt, or you can go to Peru, or you can go to Galapagos, and there'll be some local person that has a little company. You can book with them. It's going to cost half the price as what I offer. And you can just do it all online. They're going to offer you the best service. You can call them. You can do all these things. You can Skype them these days. And the transaction, and you feel like you're supporting a local business and all of that stuff. But really, we had to think differently about how we were going to build a brand that was going to convince that we could export tourism. So my first challenge when I started the company in 1990, I guess, is when, after my second year, I realized that Canadians actually only have 2 weeks holiday. So if you think that in the old days when used to have to do research, I used to have to go to a library, and I went into, does anyone remember in the library they used to have these rooms that had all the yellow pages books from around the world? I'd go into this room, and I'd pull out the German yellow pages, and I would flip through it and see, is there any adventure companies in Germany? How do you say German? There's no Google Translate, so I have to figure out how to say adventure in German. And it was just a different world. And so I had to build a brand that was compelling enough to export. And that had never been done. That wasn't something that people would do. Well, why would a German company or someone in Denmark book an African safari with a Canadian company? Even before the internet. Because that was my first challenge, and I guess what took us from a little travel agency on the corner to being what we are today, which is we take over 100,000 travelers all over the world now. We have over 1,000 trips, and we have over 15,000 departures, over 1,500 employees. It's all grown based on building that kind of brand promise. But we had to build something compelling enough to export. And the idea of exporting tourism and exporting services had never been thought of, and I certainly hadn't thought of it. I mean, when I started the company on credit cards, everyone knows that kind of famous story that I didn't have any bank loans. I tried and visited every bank in Canada, and everyone said no. My idea was crazy. People don't want to do what you're doing. And that my space, and that's why the name Gap came out. We were so good, they named a clothing store after us later. But we were filling a gap in the market between the mainstream traveler and the backpacker, right? That's where we came from. Because there was this space. It's like I say, we were the iPad between the phone and the desktop, right? That was our space. And so when I went traveling myself, I saw young professional people that I didn't like backpacking personally, but when I went traveling, I either had to take a cruise, go on a resort, or take a coach with 60 mindless people that could care less about where they were. those coach companies are set up to create Western environments so you feel like you're at home. You have all the comforts of home. And I always say, if you want the comforts of home, please stay at home, for Christ's sakes. Don't go anywhere. And those coach companies all, were the only things that people had. And if you wanted to travel on your own, you had to go backpacking. And the backpacker was not registered by tourist boards as a form of travel because they didn't really, money was paid in hand for local services, local hotels, local guides, local restaurants, local trains, buses, canoes, whatever you did, local guide, you took a city tour, you paid someone in hand. They couldn't register that. And so it was seen as, it was the first kind of introduction of what we call ecotourism, right? So that was kind of my initial kind of idea, that there was all these people that were trapped into this mainstream kind of holidays because that were the only choices. And so, yeah, I guess I had a lot of piss and vinegar in me, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to attempt to change the way people travel. And, just giving you some quick figures, though, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, just to give you an idea of the size of the industry, just for business context, and so you understand, because I'm talking about tourism, but this obviously relates to any kind of business or social enterprise. The UNWTO said there was 866 million tourists in 2008, and the same organization believes there'll be 1.6 million in 2020. So that's a good figure. It means the business is growing. Like as an economist, you'd say that's a good business to be in. It's going to double. But the issue you have is that it's not going to scale and look the same as it does today. It's not going to be the same as it is today. There's going to be areas that don't just double, that increase by times 10, and there's some areas that won't change at all. So there's huge sustainability issues with that, right? Because it's going to grow so fast. Airlines are getting faster, cheaper. Just this morning, everyone here, Air Canada is launching a discount airline. Cheaper, faster, easier to travel than ever before. So people are going to travel more and more. This information highway that we're on, people aren't scared to go to Africa anymore. People get on a plane. I find it shocking, the amount of people that book 3 days before a trip these days, come into our office and say, I'd like to go to Antarctica on Thursday. Really? Were you bored this weekend? But it's like we never saw that. We've never seen that before. Like in the first 10 years of this business, it didn't happen. If someone went to Antarctica, they booked their trip 6 months in advance, plan it, read guidebooks, get ready, prepared, and we get it constantly now. And so some of the problems that as an industry, that we're facing, and again, this isn't necessarily relatable to whatever you're in, but these are the challenges that I face, is that 10 years ago, 1 in 5 people taking a package holiday chose all-inclusive, but today that number is 75%. So more and more people are taking inclusive packages and taking compound resort holidays, where they never leave the property, right? It's a disaster. It's not sustainable. And I'm sure most of you have been to one of those resorts, right? And they first tell you, don't leave the resorts because the natives are dangerous. Of course, they're angry at you because they don't benefit from you being there. And this is a serious sustainable problem. And UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, came up with a statistic that said out of $100 spent on vacation by a tourist, in a developed country, only $5 actually stays in the country. This is the most staggering statistic that should make the travel industry ashamed of themselves, because this is what is going to be the downfall of tourism today. And for the first time, tourism is being held accountable for carbon emissions, carbon offsetting and climate change, fuel crises. There's so many things that we're up against in the travel industry. And as an industry, we're not even benefiting local communities and local cultures, and no one's benefiting from the fact that you're there. So it's no wonder that people are angry when you're there. Of course, because they're not benefiting. You're in this massive resort that's consuming massive amounts of resources when there's not even fresh water just outside the gates, right? They don't have all of their, I'm from the Caribbean myself, where I was born. Have you ever been to Jamaica lately? All the beach property is foreign owned. It's all foreign owned beach. And so if you wanted to go to the beach with your family and you're Jamaican, you go to this public beach. Has anyone ever seen? I challenge anyone, next time you're in Jamaica, take one day, take a taxi, and go take a picture of what the public beach looks like for local people to go to the beach with their families. And then you wonder why they're angry that you're there, because there's no benefit to them that you're there. And so this is the issue that we face in terms of sustainability. So we had to build, so my first challenge is we have to build a culture and a brand that's compelling enough to export. That someone is going to engage with us. It became actually quite easy for us lately, but I'm going back in time, right? So this is 1992. I just got my fax machine. So let's go back that far. I've just got my fax machine for the first time, and I realized, shit, they need a fax machine too. How are they going to get my fax? They don't have it in Africa. They don't have a fax. I have the fax. Such a problem. And so this is, as a company, are trying to the idea of exporting services. That, that a brand promise that's strong enough that people will want to be part of it. This is before the social revolution, right? And so we've always kind of stated our culture as our brand. It was all about our people, about getting our culture right. And we've been at the forefront of this for a very long time. And and we always talk about our business model about being about happiness. And I always show these slides to people who are starting businesses, because when you look at the study of happiness, because people often think about happiness as having a meal with your family, walking your dog possibly, whatever, getting a new car, those all supply momentary happiness. But in terms of sustained happiness, if you actually study it, and I didn't think of this stuff, this is scientific. There's lots of scientists that have studied what drives people's happiness is directly related to what you do every day in starting a business and building a culture that will deliver exceptional service and deliver a brand promise that's outstanding and that you could use as a differentiator as opposed to just good service. We all have to offer good customer service, right? Everyone does, or else you won't be in business. But can you use it as a differentiation to your brand? In order to do that, you have to have happiness in your business model. You have to have people that are willing and wanting and motivated to deliver on a brand promise that exceeds expectations. So when I look at this is my challenge of building our business model around this at a time when we were quite small. Jumping ahead to 1996, we started selling in the UK and Australia in 93, 94. And we started selling so much overseas, and Canadians, once again, only have 2 weeks holiday, which I think is insane, but it's just the way it is. And I started realizing that the Germans have 4 weeks, 5 weeks holidays. The French, they have 6 weeks holidays. The Brits, 5 weeks holidays. And the Australians, I don't even know if they work. The Australians kind of work between holidays. That's what I figured out. So, there's basically 5 building blocks that you build your business around to achieve that kind of business model. And that's where we started building our culture and building a brand that would offer something that was unique and compelling enough to export services. So the first thing would be perceived progress. Like, everyone has to feel that they can grow, right? Prisoners aren't very happy. They'll never achieve happiness because they're prisoners. That's the way it should be. But if you're in a job, if you work hard, you should be able to progress. You should be able to grow. You should build your whole business around the ability for people to progress and grow. That's a standard business one. That's really easy. Connectedness. That you have to be connected to the people and everyone around you. Has anyone ever worked for people that they completely hate? Can't stand? Hands up. And those with you who don't have your hands up, you're lying. We all have worked for people that we hate. Now, you can do a good job in an environment like that, but you'll never achieve happiness. Because if you're not connected to the product, the people, connected around it. And social media today gives us the best opportunities for connectedness than ever before. We have the opportunity to be more connected than ever. And this building block to the happiness business model is probably one of the most important things and easiest to achieve. Perceived control. That you're working wherever you are because you want to, and if you want to leave, you can leave. You're there because you choose to be there. It's very easy, and you make it easy in your business for people to leave. Like, when someone wants to leave, you actually encourage them to leave. If they can find something better or they don't fit within your business model, just go. No one is that talented that they should mess with your culture. And if you have bad and irresponsible people, you'll always manage your people to the lowest common denominator. I see it all the time. And it's about getting the right people on the right seat every time, all the time, and making it very easy for people to leave. And then the next one is being part of something larger than yourself. That no matter what it is you do, this is a little harder for companies to achieve, but it's totally achievable. You have to be doing something that's larger than yourself. It's not, if you're just if you're a receptionist or whether you're, a VP, that whatever it is you're doing, you're part of something greater. And the last one is freedom. Getting better. This is a little bit difficult. Getting better at recruiting people as you get bigger. So as an organization, as you grow, you can actually create more freedom as an organization because you have the best people. One of the best companies in the United States is Netflix. They have an amazing culture. I met the CEO of Netflix. I said, give me your, he gave me his core values, 14 pages long. I said, wow, I cannot use that. If you're a cook in one of my trucks in Africa and you love your brand, there's no way you're going to follow 14 pages of core values. Just a different business. But they are so amazing where they gave their employees so much freedom. They were the first company to have no holiday time anymore. Right? They give no holiday time. You take as much holiday as you feel you deserve every year. They don't dictate what your holiday time is. And they've created that. They've gotten so good at distilling their people to have the best possible people and the most responsible behavior in every employee that they can create that kind of freedom. So today, the brands and being an iconic brand, the tools that we have companies like large iconic brands all acting like small entrepreneurs. We all have the same tools. We all have the same tools, right? And we all have a fair playing field. It's a fair playing field. Like Procter & Gamble, when they want to launch a brand new shampoo, it used to take $100 million ad campaign, and then get Matt Damon to use it in a movie, and you'd say, wow, I'm going to use that guy because I want to be like Matt Damon. And but it doesn't work anymore. A good example of that is Dove. I always bring up the example of Dove. Does everyone know Dove? Any immigrants in the room? Immigrant families? How many of your families bought Dove when you were a child for $1.99 for 25 bars? It was this long. My parents did. They couldn't even fit it in the car. They used to tie it on the roof. And we got the Dove. The cheapest possible brand you could buy was Dove. And some people at Procter & Gamble used social media and created a movement. They did the black and white ads, with the middle-aged women, naked, crouched out, in the picture, wrinkled or beautiful, kind of both. And suddenly, Dove is a premium brand, overnight. Didn't change the recipes, didn't change anything. But Dove is now a premium brand because they used the same tools to create that movement. They created a movement through using social media. And so I knew that we had to do the same thing. And this is, after, even though we started selling through traditional travel agents, when my challenge started coming in the mid-90s, when the internet came on and this media revolution happened, we started having to change what we do. And coming into modern day now, in the last 5 years, we sit in a very precarious place where we all know what social entrepreneurship is, and social entrepreneurship generally in the past has been linked towards nonprofits doing social work where their social mission is the driving force of the company. But social media has come into play now, and it really merged these two kind of thinking together. And they've really created where we sit, which is a social enterprise. And social enterprise is something that's very new. I just saw, we work with Salesforce. Does everyone know Salesforce? So Salesforce just did a social enterprise video, and one of their videos is Burberry. Burberry is now a social enterprise, apparently. So they say. So Burberry now, because their CEO's on Facebook, that means that they're a social enterprise. Companies are changing, and the idea of social entrepreneurship and social innovation, combined with what's happening with the social movement and social change with social media, is creating a whole new style of business in social media, in social enterprise. And that's really where we sit. And I want to show you examples of that, because it's easy to talk about stuff like that, and I hate talking and just giving quotes if I can't give you live examples of how we've overcome challenges. So let me give you an example. I'm going to talk to you about just one country that we operate in the world, which is Peru. Okay, so Peru, we have 350 employees in Peru. We're the largest operator on the Inca Trail than any other operator in the world. We consume 32% of the world market share in Inca Trail permits. Number 2 is like 9%. To give you an idea of our size over everyone else. We go through an area that has 0 employment for women. 0. And we identify a new problem, which is cultural impact, because the younger generation is no longer weaving. And they're moving to cultural centers. Why? To serve our passengers. As we've grown, they're moving to work in stores, they're working in bars, they're working in retail, they're selling stuff on the streets, whatever it is. The younger generation is now moving to the city center and no longer weaving. So the impact of social impact is they're no longer weaving, and they're losing all their traditions, their storytelling, all of their traditional patterns, everything, all the Inca traditions are being lost because the younger generation is not doing that. So we started the Women's Weaving Co-op, and the Women's Weaving Co-op was going to be 60 women, 30 younger and older, that would be in the region, and they would teach the younger generation to weave and build a co-op around the area, and we would then come through with all of our customers, one at a time, and they would consume the products. So this is an idea of social enterprise that's a good thing, that, the good things that we do, but what it is it actually goes way beyond that. Because, running an Inca Trail is a commodity, and all of my competitors run really good trips too, and I wish they didn't. I pray at night that they all go to hell, but they won't. And they run really good trips. And so what this did is it created a differentiation for us over a commodity product. Suddenly we had something with our Inca Trail trip, with the Women's Weaving Co-op as part of it, that created differentiation for our trip. And the minute we opened our gates, the day we opened the Women's Weaving Co-op, all of our competitors drove up with their passengers in their vans. Can we visit the Women's Weaving Co-op? We're like, no, get the hell out. Get your own Women's Weaving Co-op. And so we then raised the bar of our industry as well. I'd like to show you a quick video of what that looks like in terms of the Women's Weaving Co-op. Quick. More volume on that.
We think travel is about going places, about departure points and destinations. But this isn't why we go. A stamp in your passport reminds you where you've been, but not why you went. We travel because we're looking for something important. Something meaningful, something that matters. Traveling takes a lot from us, but what we leave behind is worth so much more than what we take away. When we travel, we're not leaving our homes and our families behind. We're searching for new ones.
So that gives you an idea of what I call social enterprise. Solving a business problem by creating a better product and experience for our customers while creating sustainable solutions. So that's just one example. Let me give you another one. I'm staying in Peru because we have projects all over the world through our foundation. And in Peru, here's my problem. I run the Inca Trail, and I have 22,000 passengers that go on the Inca Trail every year. And when we move our operations to an Inca Trail operator, they become the largest company in Cusco overnight. The largest company by far. Within a few years, we have problems with people not paying taxes, not paying fair wages, not buying new equipment, service issues. So our last solution was to break all of our business up into 5 companies. We broke up all our business so it wouldn't be one big one. We broke it up into 5 companies. And more problems. Biggest mistake we ever made. Because some of them were good, some of them weren't, some paid their taxes, some didn't. We had more problems. We just had more of the same, just 5 different companies now. So I went to the Peruvian government, right, all the way up to the Minister of Tourism, right up to the president to say, I need an Inca Trail permit. I need an Inca Trail license to run my own trips. I want to do it myself. And here's what I'll do if you give it to me. I'll be the first Western company. I'll set up an operation in Cusco. I will only recruit in areas that have 0 to no employment. I will not bring any people from outside. I'll only hire local people. I'll supply all the training. I will benchmark the price of the industry standard of what it costs for the Inca Trail program, and I'll give that back into the business, into the community, so I'm not doing it for cheaper prices. And suddenly, within, I would say, the last 10 years, when we originally got that, we grew to be the biggest operator by finding a social solution to our problem, which our problem was consistency problems. This was a very standard business practice. I call it the Big Mac problem. I want the Big Mac to taste the same in Moscow as it does in Singapore. If I go to Hong Kong, wherever I go, I want the Big Mac to be the same. And so I want consistency of product, not between 5 different operators. And so now here's a graduating class of our last training seminar in Peru, where we have over 300 employees, all recruited from low-income areas, all operating on our trail, making us the biggest operator in the world, all from finding a sustainable solution. So it gives you an example of how we think about business problems as a business, and when we have those problems, how we overcome them. I talk about this thing about being a movement, and communicating with our customers has become one of the biggest issues with us as a social enterprise is the social nature and the transparency that comes along with going down this road. The idea that, we have over 1,000 employees on Twitter. People get breaks all day to tweet whenever they want. They're all live streamed on our website for complete transparency because we have happy people. I pay a lot of money to keep people happy, and people say how much they love every day. It's live streamed all the time, and it keeps us connected as a business. My leadership challenge is the fact that I have over 1,500 employees around the world, and probably 2/3 of them I'll probably never meet in their entire careers with me, yet I need them to get up every morning, love their jobs, work hard, and want to deliver on my brand promise and love the company. And I never signed up for that, by the way, when I decided to start this company on credit cards in 1990. And suddenly I have people in 100 countries that are all loving our brand and want to be connected. And so the social revolution is what changed that. So we started our own movements last year where we set a date with the end of tourism season, like being a tourist. Tourist season is over, we said. That it's all about, we were all born travelers, but we're raised to be tourists. And we started this ad campaign that just went like wildfire. We won every major online award this year, whether it would be in travel or out of travel, for our You'll Never Forget It campaign, because of how we communicated our stance on tourism season being over. We beat out some of the largest agencies, Saatchi & Saatchi, McLaren McCann, some of the biggest agencies in the world, and we did it all in-house with our videos. And I'll show you a quick one. But what we did is, to give you an idea of the project, is we took 6 countries and 6 videos. I'm just going to show you a quick 1-minute one that just shows a kind of a bit of all of them together. You can actually go online if you want to see all the individual ones. And then we ran a contest for people to send in their You'll Never Forget It moment, right? And in their You'll Never Forget It moment, we took all those together, and we then took those people on trips, the winners of those on trips, and they're on the covers of our brochures this year. So let's take a look at what that looked like.
Now closing at gate A10.
I'm not a tourist.
I don't get competitive about shuffleboard.
I don't wear socks with sandals.
I couldn't care less about the gift shop.
I will not do the limbo.
I didn't come all this way to see nature on a leash.
My adventure doesn't stick to a schedule.
I'm here to learn about those who walked this trail before me, to stand where empires rose,
Fell and rose again. To devour it,
Bite by gigantic.
delicious bite. I travel for the little details, for the small stuff.
The tiny, barely remembered sensations that add up to memories.
this is an experience that doesn't fit inside a viewfinder.
This is yesterday. This is tomorrow. This is now.
It's real. Mom was right. You never know if you like something until you try it.
And I'm going to try everything.
You better get here soon. There might not be anything left. That's why I'm here. This is my planet.
You really should come see it sometime.
So that gives you an idea of how we've kind of taken what we are as a business and made it into a movement. We've been doing that, I guess, for the last 5 years. And I want to give you some more examples. As I told you with that campaign, this year, all of the winners of the You'll Never Forget It are on the covers of our brochures this year, bringing our customers into our business and creating that relationship. Because the next lesson of social enterprise for me, and the challenge for me, is creating a business that transcends your product. Whatever it is you do, can you engage your customers beyond your product and almost be irrelevant with what you do? To transcend travel. Like, not that we're just a travel company, that if I decided tomorrow that I was going to sell mood rings, I'd be the best mood ring seller in the world. It doesn't matter what I sell. It's the engagement of our customers to a higher purpose beyond travel. And that's where we got to, that's where we're pushing our boundaries as a business, as we engage in more utilizing this social enterprise business model and engaging our customers. And I'm going to give you some kind of live examples, because I really dislike when people do talks with lots of quotes. And I'm not shamelessly plugging our trips, which I was told not to do because this Mars crowd is way too sophisticated for that. But you can take our trips if you want, you should. But I have to show you live examples of what we do, because it really is relevant to why we're successful. So years ago, we threw out the idea of putting our amenities in the front of our brochures. Like, we started putting our values, our core values, in terms of how we communicate to our customers. For years, every travel brochure, when you open it, it shows you the hotels, the pools, what you get, the amenities in your room, and saying you get all the comforts of home. And we stopped doing that, and we started doing something like this, telling people why. Getting away from how you're going to see this country, but why you should go, and inspire people through our values. And it changed everything for us in terms of how we communicated with our customers and creating that social relationship with them. It was a very big challenge, because we had gone through so much over the course of the 90s, from the internet coming on to really being seen as a threat to our business, to being able to engage it and use it as a strength to really for our business to grow even more. But as a company, we love changing people's lives, and it's what we do, and it's the core of what we do. And everything, all of our decisions are based on those core values. So my core values are 5, unlike the Netflix guy who had 14 pages, and mine aren't even sentences. They're kind of like 3 words each, because I have stable horsemen in Mongolia, I have bike mechanics in Morocco, and I have Tibetan monks that are part of leading our experiences around the world. And so I have to create something that I can unite people in a united voice that creates a brand promise that's globally different, and we can export it. I don't know if I'm making sense, but our latest movement just started this week. We just had a big thing, as we're now challenging our customers for the first time, where we're talking back to our customers, being quite sassy, challenging our customers of what they will do for tomorrow. And we just started this new campaign, and it's not really a campaign, but again, and my marketing guys hate when I say the word campaign. They're going to kill me. Because it's about the movement of, and if you go on the site, it's all about challenging now our customers to do something outside of travel. This has nothing to do with travel. It's about engaging them as human to human and not talking to them at all about travel. And this is what it looks like that was just this week.
Today is just another day. Perfectly ordinary. It's the sort of day that happens once in a lifetime. And just like any other, it's the sort of day that will offer you chances to make tomorrow better. Today may be just another day, but it's yours. Don't let it slip into the shadow of someday. Use it up. Leave something extraordinary in its place. This is your planet. Get to know it. One gesture, one person, one moment at a time. After all, the better you understand it, the more you'll be able to help it. So don't worry what tomorrow will bring. You can choose to make it better. And that is the greatest freedom one can hope for. What will you do today for tomorrow?
So again, another example of where we now have a website where we're challenging now our customers to submit their stories of what they're going to do today for tomorrow. And apparently, I don't even know, I'm not in touch with what our marketing department is doing. Apparently on the 7th of January, there's going to be some big launch that I don't even know about. It's so secret, they don't even tell me, the owner of the company, that's going to change the way we kind of communicate with our customers in the social space. So be prepared for that. So just giving you some more examples about service and leading with service and how we find social and challenges that we have when we make this, when we set out to create this aggressive model about a purpose-driven business model, and we kind of put ourselves out there as a social enterprise, we started getting a lot of critics about how we were going to incorporate all of our values into our social solutions and really be a social enterprise. And here's an example of that where we, in India, one of our biggest countries in the world, we run city tours, and we've been running city tours with a local company for years. The first day all of our travelers arrive there, you get a city tour. And we've been doing that for years. But now we changed that about 5 years ago where we started working with the street kids home, supplied the education for street kids. And when you go on a city tour with us, these guys are your guides. And they take you on a tour of India and the tour of Delhi the way they want to see Delhi. It's just a day tour, so you have your regular guide with us, but it's just a day tour with the street kids. And these kids know India better than anyone. And these are kids that have all come from at-risk situations, that have all left their families at very young ages, and are living in street kids' homes where we're providing the training and creating jobs and are creating a better experience. For years now that we've been running this in India, when anyone writes all of our customer satisfaction, they always talk about day one. It's the best part of the trip, best thing they've ever done. We had 14 other days, but the first day with the street kids on the city tour of Delhi was the best part of the trip every time. So it created that social solution, and created a better experience for our customers, which is the example. And that's how we create on the service side of creating those solutions. Probably giving you a bit of a better concept of how we engage our customers. When our 20th anniversary, when we were still Gap Adventures, we decided every year we fly 60 doctors and nurses into Tibet. And we are able to restore the vision of 300 Tibetans in 10 days. And we do about 1,000 eye surgeries a year. And we've been doing that for years, and it costs me nothing. Never cost me a cent. Ever. Women's Weaving Co-op, cost me nothing. Now, when I talk to you about engaging your customer to a higher purpose, this is an example. So for our 20th anniversary, we wanted to build the first permanent eye hospital in Cambodia. And it was going to be called the G Adventures 2020 Eye Center for our 20th anniversary, which was very clever. And we needed to raise $75,000 that day for our 20th anniversary party. We ran a circus here in Toronto. There was a circus down in Berkeley. And at the Berkeley Hotel or whatever it was, some venue. And church, yes, Berkeley Church. And we raised $160,000 that night. And with that, we were able to rally our entire company around building our first eye hospital, which is now working. I have a video, but I'm running short on time, so I'm going to skip the video at this time. But we did that all, and it cost me nothing. And so when you say I engage my customers to a higher purpose, and it's irrelevant that we sell travel, that's a live example of what we do. Probably one of the best examples was last August. I read in an Economist magazine that there was, the famine in Kenya. Women were walking their families to the refugee camps, and they were dying of dehydration halfway. There was a specific profile of a woman who left with 9 children and arrived at the camp with 2, dead from dehydration along the way. So I sent one tweet, and many of you might have supported this. I said, we need to build water stations in the midpoint. I went to the United Nations and Care Canada and said, what would it cost to build water tanks in the midway to give water to people, to give them a fighting chance to survive? And they said it would cost $25,000 for one. So we put out a plea with one tweet. It went out, and we raised $50,000 in 23 hours. $5 and $10 a time, no major donors. It's all of our customers engaged beyond travel. Within 3 days after that, we raised $100,000, $10, $20, $50, $25 at a time from our customers engaged to our brand beyond travel. And we built those water stations. One day, if you can see me speak, I have videos for all these that are great, but I don't have time today. But I'm going to pass that. Excuse me. And maybe we'll come back to it. One of the things I wanted to one of the new challenges I have as a business, and kind of my last thing before I take some questions with you guys, is one of the biggest announcements we've ever made was just made last Tuesday. But at the same time, immediately after, I had to go to Washington to defend myself of making this, because we've crossed that line now between a business and a social enterprise. And so I announced last Tuesday at the Future of Tourism, which it's a sold-out kind of event we do down at the Winter Garden Theater here. And it's broadcast around the world of our new kind of project. It's every year in September. But this year, we announced a new relationship of a contract that we signed with the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank. The Inter-American Development Bank, for the first time, is going to work with a private sector institution, a company like ours. They're going to give us over $1 million to build tourism projects around the world. Highly criticized that an institution like the IDB or the World Bank, one of those institutions, will work with a private sector company for our kind of financial benefit. But we crossed the line close enough to a social enterprise. For the first time, it's never happened. It's never happened. That we'll be able to work, they can justify working with us because of our purpose-driven business model. And so we're attempting to be the first company in the world, and it's going to be studied all over the world, starting in Latin America, where we're going to build 5 projects. And they'll be successful because these institutions have built tourism projects all over the world, and they've been failures because they can't sell them and market them afterwards. But guess what? We're the sales and marketing arm for it. Let us build them through our foundation, and let us make them successful immediately. So so this is going into a whole new space. So I went to Washington the Wednesday after I announced this last Tuesday, and about 500 people showed up. And there was about 30 people from the World Bank, and they were all like pitchforks. He's the devil. Anyway, and the idea for us is to kind of create these community projects through funding, through grants. It's not loans, it's grants, to give these communities that are impoverished the ability to sustain themselves through tourism and create social solutions again as a business. So I'll just go quickly. The first one's in Guatemala, where we're going to do a homestay program with the local community, where we'll build cottages on the land of the communities, and our community and our people that come through there. We have about 1,000 passengers a year that will drive through those to create revenue and income for those communities. We'll pay as regular hotel rates, but we'll create a better experience for our customers by doing a homestay, but at the same time creating that solution for the business. The next one is Ometepe in Nicaragua. We're going to do another homestay with a community that's extremely, devastatingly poor in this community. And we have 1,000 passengers going through that village all the time, and we don't have, we have community impact, but having these homestay programs with 1,000 passengers is going to be a live example of social enterprise. In Costa Rica, we will have a co-op coffee tour and restaurant with uniting 6 different communities together. And in this trip alone, we have 7,000 passengers that go through this region that'll all go to the restaurant for meals, and will all be part of that community experience. And then in the large trek in Peru, and we're going to go down to Peru, where we're going to build community campgrounds. Right now, there's a trek in Peru, and no one makes any money from it. Tour operators like me, including me, make arrangements with farmers that camp everywhere, and we pay farmers. There's all kinds of things, shenanigans that goes on to pay for the camping to get to everyone wants to get to Machu Picchu. We're actually going to build now permanent campsites for all operators, not just us. It's open to everybody. And we'll be able to, that money we funneled equally amongst the community, the people that are invested in it. And there's 8,000 passengers just from us that'll go through that community project. And then the last one is the biggest one, which is in the Sacred Valley, where it's the biggest area where people go to Machu Picchu for Peru. And we're going to open a community restaurant that's going to supply training and opportunities and vocational training in the food and beverage industry, all within the restaurant. And we'll have 15,000 passengers a year that'll go there and dine there and support and sustain that community project. So again, another example of how we're making a better experience for our customer. And our challenge right now is actually making these work, because it's a very aggressive move on our part working with someone like the IDB to be able to prove that we can make this model work. So I got to take some questions, if I can. Says I have 50 minutes to take questions. Does anyone have any questions?
There's one from the webcast, but I just wanted to thank you for your presentation. I thought it was interesting that you lost the gap part of your name, but you're still sort of filling gaps all around your industry.
We lost the A and the P, really.
Yeah, the A and the P. Yeah.
And if any of you guys ever get mistaken between us and an ill-fitting clothing company, we're the one that was started at the hands of adults. Enough said.
So we have a question from Dwayne on the webcast. We actually had 150 people on the webcast, which is great. I just want to do a shout out to all those people. Dwayne says, great talk, Bruce. How are you going to keep pushing the envelope going forward?
Well, we've just made this big commitment with the IDB. And for us, that's going to take us for the next 3 years to actually really show social enterprise and social innovation like it's never been seen before, and have a lasting impact that goes beyond our industry, because the IDB and the MIF, they want to actually study these programs, so it sits in the memory of the institutions so they can replicate it in other parts of the world. So that's a pretty big challenge for us. And the other thing we're doing right now that we launched is we just got our first vehicles running on vegetable oil. We just launched a mobile concept store on a converted school bus, which is going to be traveling around to all the schools, and it's all done on used vegetable oil, and utilizing and pushing the envelope on alternative fuel sources and things like that for our vehicles and different things like that. Hi.
Well, actually, could
So-
we get questions to go to the mic just because we have people
Oh,
watching
sorry.
the
Okay.
webcast? So
I'll
we'll take
let
this
you.
one over
I'll
here.
let you take the questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. My name is Noel.
Thank you.
Wonderful speech. I'm actually from California, so you can understand the affinity.
Sure.
Touching. So when it's a social enterprise, such as what you're running, and also that has a commercial element,
Yep.
I get the feeling that you're slightly redefining what it is, this idea of business.
Yes.
And I'm very fascinated on where you see this is going, because this is revolutionary for everybody in the room
Well,
to
yeah.
actually get an understanding of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're able to go further than any other company is going because of what we sell, right? Because we have so much impact with local communities and travel. There's a lot of companies that are doing great stuff, like if you look at Tom's Shoes or Amazon or companies that are building social parts to their business model. But we're able to just go further because of the nature of our business. I always find it amazing that people can sell shoes or DVDs and all these kind of things and create that social kind of relationship with their customers. But people are doing it. But we just have that ability to do much more, and we're lucky because of the product that we sell. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question from the webcast from Laura. How do you find the time to do everything and
boy.
not get sick?
I just do. I don't sleep.
You don't sleep?
I have really good people, and I don't do everything, I guess. I actually don't do very much nowadays. I mean, when you get to a certain size, it gets so much easier when you can afford really top talent. It's very interesting, because I find I worked harder 10 years ago. But now, today, I have like some of the most amazing people that I work with that challenge me. You know, when I started the company and we kind of all grew up together, I was kind of always used to being the smartest in the room, right? Because I was dictating the vision, I was doing everything, right? And it was all lead by example, because everyone saw me work hard, and so they worked hard. But like, I'm now the dumbest in the room. When I look at with all the guys that I have and the people that are on my executive team, my core team around the world, we just have some amazing people that have challenged me to be better. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I can't do everything, but I get better people as we get bigger to do everything. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Really, really interesting. My name is Faye, Adia Faye. I'm curious about two things related to the whole social enterprise and where you're taking your business. One is, to what extent do the people in the communities where you're setting up, for example, with the IDB Bank or with your other ventures, to what extent do the local people, are they involved in defining what the project or what will be and what value it will bring? That was
They're involved in every aspect of it.
Okay.
Every aspect of it.
Okay.
Part of what we do is creating that dialogue with communities. So another thing that I didn't announce, but we launched a new Australia-New Zealand program this year. We've never done tours in Australia and New Zealand because it's been so difficult for us to deliver our brand promise in that region. And it took us years to create relationships to be able to create indigenous community experiences and build the trust with the communities in order to do that. Because Aboriginal communities are quite resistant to the concept of tourism. And so we are very involved. Like, we send executive teams. I have a whole department called Innovation that are right now, actually, as we speak right now, are in Australia right now, visiting those communities, creating that dialogue with how we're going to create that relationship and benefit.
Okay.
And I've done that as well around the world. Like, I've done contracts for UNESCO, for the United Nations Environment Program, that have gone into like the Navajo tribes in Arizona and created dialogue around using their sacred lands for tourism because they have distrust between government agencies and the First Nations communities. So that's a big part of what we do, and that's really our specialty. That's what makes us unique, actually.
And so and in terms of your employee training and so on, that's part of, in terms of the culture you talked about, the brand that you're creating within the organization.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's part of everything that we do.
Okay.
But I mean, the communities themselves, the training that's done with the communities is very different. It's how to house and how to entertain Western tourists, right? You're creating a tourism product, and even though we are wanting to keep it authentic as possible, there are limitations in which we can push our tourists. So we have to supply basic comforts, and we have to be able to create something that's a unique experience. So we spend all that time educating them on that.
Right.
and
Yeah.
building
No,
that.
I was thinking more in terms of as a company,
Oh,
what
yeah.
you do. But that's and then I'll just leave it here. The other question I had is, if you could say more or elaborate more about, given the environmental impact, you talked about that off the top, that there is. Travel involves using resources from a climate change and global,
Yes.
perspective. So I'd like to hear about how you offset that, or how you, in terms of how you design your travel.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, we do a bunch of environmental programs where we planted 400,000 trees last year in Brazil in a reforest area, in a new growth area. And I'm not a big fan of the science of offsetting, like the idea that if I plant a tree here and fly here, then it's okay somehow for the planet. There's no kind of certification around that, and it seems like a bit of a shoot 'em up rodeo at the moment. Everyone's an offsetter all of a sudden. There's an offsetting company starting up every week, and if you offset your flights, it's okay. I mean, I don't believe that international travel is going to stop. So I think that in order to have a positive impact, you just have to change your business model to have a positive impact on the ground as much as you can.
I used offset as an example, but what I'm talking about is more generally, from a customer perspective, if you're concerned about those issues and about the environment and whether traveling is going to have an impact on the community from an environmental perspective, how do you address that in the product? The services and products that you're offering.
Well, to be honest, it's not my thing. The environment issue is something that our customers ask us to get involved with. We've always been involved in social and human issues, and I find it very difficult to take money away from projects where we're feeding kids or street kids' homes and things that we do in order to. But I'm not saying that that's not a good cause, because I also don't give to cancer research, or I don't give to AIDS research, or I don't give to MS. There's lots of good causes out there. I'm very focused on what we do. And our business model is about giving back to sustainability in terms of the communities and cultural preservation in the areas in which we run tours. So we're very focused on that. We do a few environmental programs based on the demand from our customers, but it's not something that it's not one of the things that we focus on. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
In the interest of time, I'm going to combine two questions from the webcast. One is asking about if you ever had to pivot from your original vision, and the other one is saying somewhat the same, similar. What was one of your greatest failures, and what did you learn from it? From Sam.
Gosh. I've had, what's the first question?
So if you stayed with your original vision the whole time, or you've had major pivots, major sort of direction changes?
Yeah, no, we've had major direction changes every 5 years at least as a company. So the world has changed so much. Every 5 years, the world changed. Like ecotourism started in the mid-90s, and suddenly responsible tourism and sustainable tourism, and then Al Gore came on the scene and offered climate change, and on top of all that, social media came, and the revolution of social came, and our business models changed at every turn. In terms of my mistakes, I've made so many mistakes, I don't even know where to begin. I think probably the most of the mistakes that I made early on was based on, as a company that bootstraps from credit cards to, being, over $150 million a year as a business, you make a lot of decisions along the way based on what you can afford, as opposed to what is best for the business or what's necessarily going to get you the best impact. And as a company, we often made mistakes based on trying, because we've been completely self-funded, and so we decided in many ways to make decisions based on what's, trying to find diamonds in the rough in kind of employees, and when you're growing, makes the road much longer for you. And like if I had $100 million to start G Adventures at the very beginning, I'd have done everything very differently. But because I decided to take this path and keep ownership of the business and not have kind of shareholders and other things like that, it has its own price to pay. And I don't know if that's necessarily been a good thing, because people think we've kind of grown very fast. But we're 22 years old. I'm not getting any younger. I've been doing this for 22 years. I think this growth has been fairly reasonable, considering when I started and what we've done. But we've chosen to do it this way, and that's probably one of the biggest things that I would question, whether we should have done that, or whether we should have taken investment along the way, or partner more, or those kind of things. I've always been quite determined to do things on my own terms, so that's had its on conflicts with what's sometimes best for the business. Yeah.
And maybe we'll just take these last three questions,
Sure.
in the interest of time.
Yeah.
Hi, Bruce. I was curious about the idea behind the social innovation in the communities. Was that part of your original vision when you founded the company and the founding culture, or was it something you evolved into over time?
I would love to say that we thought of it originally, but that would be lying. Really, we evolved into it. In 1996, we started becoming what people were starting, a term came out called ecotourism. And suddenly we were seen as the model child for that. But I didn't start the company thinking I was starting an ecotour company because the word didn't exist when I started. So we kind of fell into that and we started getting opportunities around that. But we always had a sustainable bent to what we were doing, and there was always a focus on culture, but we just didn't have it defined. And we defined that over time.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Bruce, over here. Question was kind of similar to his. I was going to see how close was your original vision of the company to what it is now? Like, was it
nothing?
Was it such a? Did you see the company growing to this
No.
rod of scale?
Impossible. Impossible for me to do that. As I said, an immigrant kid in Calgary, just sitting there thinking I want to change the world. But doesn't everyone think that? But what are the chances that it would happen for me? So I moved to Toronto with $800 in my pocket in 1989 and decided I was actually going to start a record label, to be honest. But then Nirvana came out and I said, what the hell is that? And I said, I better stay away from music for a while. It seems to have gone crazy. Some people only know Nirvana from classic rock, and it's just so sad. But anyway, but I'd never have been given the tools to be able to envision what we become as a company, as kind of an international brand, and a company that kind of has really become a multinational kind of brand and company now, with offices all over the world and had that kind of impact. Plus, the tools that I received along the way, like, first of all, the internet and email, and then websites, and then social media, I've just been able to capitalize on all those things and I could have never predicted those in 1990.
Thanks a lot for coming to speak to us.
Thank you. Thanks, Trev. One more? Yeah.
Yeah, one more.
Okay. Bruce, you emphasize a lot about building a brand from the start.
Yeah.
About a compelling brand. Yeah. Did you find this secret sauce right at the beginning, or did you find it by try and error?
I think it was about 1993 that I took that seriously. It was early on, but it wasn't from the beginning, because I realized I'd have to export tourism. My first business challenge was realizing that Canadians just don't have holidays. And Canadians also go to the Caribbean all the time. Like, we're kind of conditioned to go to the Caribbean once a week, for a week every year, because it's just the thing that people do. And it's seen almost as a rite of passage to show your success in Canada, that people go to the Caribbean. Whereas, like, kids come out of the womb saying, Jamaica! And so I was fighting a culture here. Very severe winters, no holiday time, and this Caribbean magnet that people were being sucked into for their holiday time. Whereas people in England and Germany, they took 2 or 3 holidays a year, right? And Australia took 2 or 3 holidays a year, and they might still take that week on the beach, but then they're going to do something else and also do something. But they didn't have that mentality in Canada. So I knew I had to build a brand. And around 1993, when we started exporting, is when I started to
So you had the vision about exporting services right at the beginning. You envisioned from the beginning that Canada
it was about 93.
Yeah.
We started in 90, and about 93 is when we first started exporting outside of Canada. And that's when we started to build a brand that was creating a product that was so unique that we could export it.
Sweet. Thank you.
I think one last question, and then we'll end it.
Yeah, I actually have one more good one.
Okay.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
Thanks for coming to talk to us today.
No, thanks for having me.
Any advice for a bare-bones tour operator wanting to start out?
Oh, advising my future competitors. Don't do it.
That would be nice.
It's impossible. It's so painful. Don't do it. What type of business is it?
Alpine.
Alpine.
Hiking.
Hiking where?
Andes, Alps, Himalayas.
Yeah. Well, I think that it is a tough road at the moment in order to start out, because a lot of the sales and distribution channels are going to limit you because I've got them all locked away. Sorry.
So it seems.
I started a bit sooner than you. So like in terms of travel agency distribution around the world and all those kind of things, it's very difficult to get that kind of global distribution right now to be able to make it of any size. But I would say that the advice I would have is be very niche. What works right now is boutique operators that are specialized, and those are the people that I hate, by the way, that are very specialized in one very specific function, because they'll always be, and as specialized and boutique as you can make it, you can charge a premium for that, number one. You can be more profitable with a smaller size company, and you'll be able to create differentiation with a product that's by the uniqueness of the whatever it is that you're doing that's more of a boutique product, niche product. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you very much.
But don't do it. Okay. And then
One last quick one. So this is sort of the opposite of his. You've told him that go niche, and this is for being international. How do you first understand and then deal with the local political challenges, given you're not personally on the ground all the time, that you're running a business where your company's actions can greatly affect the value of the brand at every turn? So how do you deal with so many different changes of governments in different countries and how that might affect your operations? And cultural challenges.
Well, I mean, it is just part of our business, so we have to deal with that all the time. We're constantly opening and closing in different countries based on political situations, and we have to be sensitive to areas that are, like iconic. Like Egypt is a prime example of one of our biggest destinations in the world, but presently is having problems, and it's very difficult dealing with it. But it's also become easier for us as we've gotten bigger. We have access to more government access to be able to get around certain restrictions. And at the same time, like new countries like Colombia, the president of Colombia was able to, his office contacted us about bringing tours to Colombia and was willing to pay for us to come down and see Colombia and start to develop programs for them and actually hire us as consultants to develop in Colombia. So that makes it much easier because we never had that before. So as you get bigger, you do a lot of things, opportunities open for you. But initially, that's kind of the nature of the game being in my specific industry, that we have to deal with political, on-the-ground type issues. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you very much for your awesome
Thank
presentation.
everybody. Thank you for coming. You know what I want to do? I have, I know everyone, if you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. I want to play one last video if you want to stay. Do you mind?
Not at all.
Because we released a lipped up video. We do these global lipped up videos that are kind of viral videos for us. And we do one every year, and we just released a new one. They started with iPhones all over the world. Many of you have probably seen them. And we have hundreds of thousands of people that watch these things all over the world. And we just released the new one last Tuesday at the Future of Tourism. And to show you, because people always ask me, about our happiness business model and people who are happy and not happy. What does it look like? What do people look like when they're so engaged with your company and so engaged with your brand that they kind of build that all together into a business model? And when you build that all together in a business model, what does it look like? And we're able to do extraordinary things like these videos that we do, engaging and networking our people all around the world, at the same time answering kind of my own leadership challenges of getting people engaged with our business all the time. I'd like to show you that video. I need some volume there, DJ. Come on. It features me at the South Pole, by the way. I went to the South Pole this year.
Every day of my life, I work till I ache in my bones. At the end, I take home my heart and pay all on my own.
I get down on my knees and I start to pray till the tears run down from my eyes. Lord,
Somebody, oh somebody, can anybody find me?
somebody
to love. Find me somebody to love. Find me somebody to love. Find me somebody to love. Find me somebody to love. Find me somebody to love. Find somebody to love, love, love. Find me somebody to love. Find me somebody to love. Somebody, 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 find me somebody to love. Can anybody find me somebody to
Thanks again for coming and staying a little later. Have a good evening, everybody, and thanks, Mars, for having me. Thank you.